everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of Coast to Coast Hockey. Hope everyone's staying warm out there. Was just shoveling some snow before we started this stream. So, hope everyone's having a great evening. Um, we're your co hosts. I'm Adrian and my friend Damon here. Keep pointing in the wrong direction. That way. There we go. Damon, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Just trying to stay away from the cold, and I have a lot of opinions about the weather right now. Hopefully, March warms
Amen.
up. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, honestly, I'm tired of the winter. I was like, I was kind of screaming and crying in my car when I was driving home from work today. So, aside from that, let's get into the mix. A lot of news in the past couple of days. We'll start off though with our beloved Habs and their performance this week. They went 2-1 with wins against New Jersey, and the Philadelphia Flyers, but unfortunately lost to Ottawa on Saturday. I think we talked about it on the stream on Thursday because we kind of touched the previous week with the game with the Devils. It was a good team win. They played great hockey. Again, they played great last week. The Ottawa game was a little bit of an iffy one, but the Flyers. I mean, the Flyers are the Flyers. So I think you could put a AAA team and they could beat the Flyers right now. No offense to them, but it's just the truth. It's just that one was a good team win as well. Ottawa was a tough game on Saturday. I feel like the Habs have a lot of trouble with Ottawa, and it's been kind of like a trend for some years now. But yeah, we've got a lot of more news too, like with the trade deadline coming up. The Habs made a trade. I guess you can say it was a medium trade yesterday. Denis Gurianov is a Montreal Canadian, and they traded Evgeny Dadonov for him. So I know Dadonov was on this show, it seemed like, but it seemed like he was going to be like a trade deadline piece. Seems to be. But Damon, what do you think of the trade?
I'm gonna be honest. I woke up and then I woke up a little bit later than this trade actually happened, and then just checking through my feed and I see Dadonov was swapped, and I look through the article and I see Denis Gurianov. I thought, am I hallucinating? I was freaking out. Like I was like, oh my god, Denis Gurianov is a Hab. I was freaking out. I thought this guy is a good player. And I was just amazed. Another common Kent W. Hughes. W.
Yes. Like Shane has said in the past, got to give him a rub on the forehead and give him a little kiss.
Yeah, pat on the
That's
head.
what he said.
Kent Hughes is my favorite bald person on the planet that'll say that.
Yes, that's right. He is working some magic, and
some of my family members are bald, so I will say that.
Yeah, no, he's done like we've said on this show. We like his performance so far as GM, and this was obviously another good trade. I think a good example of asset management was trading an expiring contract, an older player, and getting a younger player in return. Right? I mean, Gurianov. I looked at his stats. He numbers are a little bit lower. He's having a pretty subpar season, but maybe just a change of scenery is what he needs. Maybe a different system, maybe more ice time, better line mates. Maybe he might actually play better. But again, a guy who's 25 years old, and I think Damon, you mentioned this in the group chat yesterday, but he was a monster in the Vegas series in the bubble of the 2020 playoffs. So it ended up being something good.
Yeah, because just looking back on that whole playoffs, Dallas relied on him heavily on the power play, and he scored that power play overtime winning goal, which knocked out Vegas, which still to this day reigns supreme over everything.
Hell yeah.
But not the Lehkonen goal though. Still, his goal still reigns supreme, and Vegas did more just talking shit than actually playing hockey that series. I could do another whole video about that, but
oh God, yeah.
Gurianov, he's also someone that I don't think Dallas needed as much because they had so much other young talent come up and emerge this year. Jason Robertson, what a story he's been. Wyatt Johnson, and they still have a lot of other good young prospects, such as Logan Stankoven and so many more. I could list names for days when it comes to Dallas prospects who will become NHLers. And also with Marty's style of hockey and offense first mindset, I think Gurianov is more of a one-way player person. And my player per se, like he's really good offensively, but not the best defensively. He could definitely work on a few things defensively, but in Montreal, I just have a good feeling about it. And I saw a video of him interacting with a lot of the players today. It seemed to be all positive, and I just can't wait to see how he plays against the Sharks in the Shark Tank tomorrow night. But that's going to be a light game. But thinking it's my reading week, so I could probably stay up and watch it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, geez, that's gonna be a late game though. Probably like 10:30, 10:30. But man, yeah, going back to Guryanov though, that could end up. We were talking about it yesterday. That could end up being a steal because again, gotta remember like he's still 25 years old, and some guys like whenever now like ever since Tage Thompson like really broke out. I don't mean to change topic, but like ever since became a star, like I remember like 5 years before, when the O'Reilly trade happened, he was kind of added in as like an extra player, not an extra player, but like, he was like the prospect, right? And it took him a while to really break out. And, like that's why, like, even if you trade a guy who's, in his mid 20s or early 20s, that's maybe, you know, not panned out in one system. Like you just never know with some guys. Some players just take a little bit longer to blossom, or it's just a different system works better for their game, right? So we'll see. We'll see how he does. Like going forward, the Habs don't really have much to lose, right? So they can play really loose, and those guys can develop. And man, I'm excited for it. I think he'll be a great player. He'll make an impact, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
We have a legend in the comment section right now.
Oh,
This guy is an absolute legend, Hockey
yes,
Junkie.
sir. That game tomorrow night starts at midnight. Oh my goodness, talk about a kick in the stones. Yeah, no kidding, my friend. That's oh boy, that's tough, man. That's the problem with a lot of those Western Conference games. They're extremely flawed in those ways because of the time zone difference. That really sucks. Hopefully, you don't have to work super early or whatever. Whatever if you have like a day job or whatever it is, hopefully you don't. Hopefully, you still get some sleep, my friend, because that's gonna suck.
Yeah, just have to get a couple cups of just have to be fueled strictly on coffee that night and the morning.
Yep. Just drink a bunch of triple triples and you'll be blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of going forward with the Habs news, this one kind of hurt a little bit, but Arbor Jack guy is out for the year. I think it was an upper body injury that he had. They said.
Yeah, I think he hurt his wrist in a fight.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was a fight he got into, and he hurt himself there. That kind of sucks because he was doing so well for us from from rookie camp till now. I just love the guy, right? So we hope he's doing well and he recovers quick. But it seems like the Habs are shutting down a lot of guys this year with injuries. So what do you think of that, Damon? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
I mean, I know what you mean. Yeah, like I have my opinions, and I understand why a lot of these players are being shut down because the season doesn't really mean too much at this point. Like right now, the guys are playing for pride, and we don't want to risk anyone playing through any injuries that could get hurt any worse. So it makes a lot of sense why we're doing this. And I don't know if you saw that Kirby Dach injury update.
No,
that was a very unique one.
All I know is it's a lower body injury. That's all.
They said it was like an infection, and then it became a lower body injury. Like I'm not a doctor or anything. I don't want to comment too much on it, but there was a lot of speculation on Habs, the Habs community, especially on Twitter, on YouTube. People are like, "What is this that the Habs are talking about? Like, how is this even a possibility?" And people are trying to do their best armchair doctor impression to try to figure out what Kirby Dach has.
Hey, that's not really for people that are trying to do that. Like that's not really our business as the public, right? But I hope he's okay, whatever it is. Yeah, I hope he's okay, and obviously takes the time to recover, and he's obviously been a spectacular player this year. I don't know if you heard about Patrick Kane's comments on why they traded him. Not why they traded him, but what his opinion on like the asset management of that was. Like he said, I think pretty much like he said they gave up on him way too early, right? And I know he was pretty vocal to the media the last few weeks there, Patrick Kane. But to go into his news, um, I think it was Elliot Friedman that broke it down on Saturday, but he was on Twitter and he was talking about apparently there's a expected trade for him coming this week. He didn't travel with the Blackhawks. I think they sent him home with his family there in Chicago. So um, all the leads seem to be going for him to go to the Rangers. It's like pretty obvious that it's going to happen now. It's just a matter of when, right? So, Damon, what do you think of those trade rumors, and what do you think? How do you think of a fit Patrick Kane will be for the Rangers?
When it comes to Patrick Kane and the Rangers, I know that he was initially upset about the Tarasenko trade, but I still think there's a good fit in there. But I've said this before. I want to see it again. I want to see Lafreniere or Kako be part of the return that goes the other way to Chicago, because right now with the New York Rangers, I'm actually going to try to share screen and pull up their lines, because
Mhm.
you may as well hand the team the cup right now if this is what their team is. Let's look at this together. Like, you may as well hand them a team if your top line is Kreider, Zibanejad, and
Jesus
Tarasenko.
Christ, that's stacked.
You may as well just hand them the
Wow.
cup right now. That's all I need to say when it comes to this, because the Rangers are just so good, and they have a lot of
Yeah.
playoff experience right here. You have Panarin, who's done well in the playoffs last year and has had some good sniffs in the playoffs with the Chicago Blackhawks when he was a member of the Blackhawks. Tarasenko is a cup winner.
Hmm.
Kreider, who's gone to the cup finals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunate circumstances.
unfortunate.
How
Yeah,
he
but
did it, but
yeah, doesn't matter how he did it. Doesn't matter, but matters that he did do it.
yeah,
But the
exactly.
defense is the one thing I will say is a little lacking experience. A lot of these defensemen are pretty young, but I still
Yeah.
believe with the veteranocity that they have up front, I still think it'll be good when it comes to the Rangers overall.
Hmm.
But I do think that they're gonna be they should be, in my opinion, probably one of the teams that goes to at least the conference final. But if not, I would not be surprised if they win the cup this year. They're one of my contenders, but there's still a lot of time between now and the deadline, so you never know what else to have up their sleeve. But if the trade ends up happening and they end up keeping all their forwards on the roster, who would you pull out, Adrian, out of this lineup to fit Patrick Kane? I know that's throwing you on the spot, but who do you think?
So, are you saying more for like who are they? Who's going the other way,
I mean, who
or
do you think they'll pull out of the lineup if all these
oh,
forwards stay?
like to scratch, like as a healthy scratch? You're saying,
Yeah.
or whatever. That's a good question. Probably just looking at the depth here. Uh, you got to think maybe Tyler Mott or Jimmy VC are probably coming out of the lineup for him, and you're probably going to see Barclay Goodrow move down to the third line there. I personally, man, imagine that top line. I would personally, if I'm coaching that team, I'm putting Panarin, Zibanejad, and Kane on that line together. That's just me though. But I would love to see a Blackhawks reunion from 2014, 15, or whatever it was.
I think
Uh,
2014, 15, 16, I think
oh,
pretty sure that was
sorry.
his rookie year.
Yeah,
Panarin's.
sorry. That's right. That's right. Sorry. My apologies there. That's right. It was 2015. But like, yeah, that would be my ideal top line. Would be them just dominating together. That they're definitely winning a cup if they put those guys together. I know Kane's been missing Panarin for quite a while, so that's probably one of the reasons why he probably wants New York. But obviously, New York is one of those teams that's like ready to win the cup, right? He wants another chance at a chip. So
Yeah, and also, I'm assuming you'll. I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you think Patrick Kane will probably return back to Chicago if they win the cup, or if they win the cup in New York, or do you think he'll be one of those players who continues to chase cups throughout his career? I know he already has 3 rings, but do you think he'll continue to chase, or do you think he'll just want to retire in Chicago? So I think there's a certain fittingness of him retiring in Chicago, because he's
yeah,
been there for so much time. So yeah,
I don't know.
that's just what I want to know.
That's a good question. I mean, I know he's very loyal to the Blackhawks, right? I know he get drafted there, he's won there, he's done everything there. I know he's like him and some of the at the time like the core of the team on that team were voicing their frustrations with like manage like Stan Bowman, sorry, at the time, with some of the trades he was making and there, and I know there was like some animosity building up, but I don't know. I think I can see him. I think for a guy his age, he probably wants to win again. Um, it's obviously not going to happen in Chicago. Personally, I think Chicago is going to try and try to get younger. That's what I think they're going to do if they're going to trade him. I don't know if they're going to sign him back unless they're smart. They sign him to a 1 year deal, just flip him again at the deadline. That'd just be absolute genius. But like, I don't know. That's a tough one. I think he's just going to ring chase for the rest of his career. If he doesn't get it done this year, he's just going to ring chase for the rest of his career.
I think
Whatever he
it's a
has
good
left.
point, but I do want to circle back to something you were saying because you made comments about the players' developments, and I want to have a bit more of a conversation about that because I found that so interesting what he said. Because a lot of people saw us as a gamble, saw it as a gamble when we took on Kirby Doc and made that massive trade for him.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering, how do you feel like about the Blackhawks' overall development? Because I feel like they have had a lot of good prospects in recent years, but just none of them have developed or done well in that system. But I found it really interesting the way they gave up on Kirby Doc so early. But I'm wondering if they knew he had talent. And since Kyle Davidson's pretty much doing everything in his power to try to get Connor Bedard, do you think he knew that Kirby Doc could potentially hurt the chances of Chicago trying to get Connor Bedard and decided to make that trade?
It's a good question. Yeah, probably. That's probably a reason why, right? Yeah, like from what it sounds like, from when it's coming from, like the players on the team saying that they're failing at development. Like that's like pretty serious. Like they've had a pretty decent amount of young players over the years that have done well, but also haven't really panned out, right? So it's hard to say. Like I mean, I think they definitely botched like the Kirby Doc thing. But if their intentions are to get Connor Bedard, then that kind of makes sense. But yeah, that's what I say on that.
Yeah, and also I just wanted to touch on one of his teammates, Max Domi, who's of course a former Hab and was still one of my favorite Habs to this day. So there's a lot of questions
Ooh.
about what's going to happen with him. There's talks that he may resign in Chicago because he likes it there, but there's also too much interest around the league that the Chicago Blackhawks will probably get a good offer that they can't refuse. And the Oilers are interested, and there's a lot of other teams. What do you think overall is going to happen with Domi?
Excuse me. Yeah, that's like first of all, I want to say the other day he got high sticked and lost a bunch of teeth. He was a couple of his teeth came out,
Oh
and
yeah.
then right after he came back and scored the overtime winner. That is like the most legendary shit you can ever do. But going back to that, you got to think too. Like Max Domi, he's what 27, 28 this year. For a team like Chicago that's trying to rebuild, would do you think he would be a guy that'd be part of a rebuild at this point? He could be, right? Because he still has a tremendous skill set. Like I'm one of like you, Damon, one of the biggest Domi fans out there. I think he's great. I was really upset when our Habs traded him, but I think right now his value is going to be pretty high with how great of a season he's having. So you got to think Chicago's listening to offers for him with the position they're in, right? So I would not be surprised if he gets traded on Friday. But that's yeah.
Yeah, same here. And also, just wanted to touch on also Domi, that whole situation, because there was a point where I did think that things may not work out the best for him in Columbus because of Tortorella and that personality clash that Torts and him would have. But then eventually, it was amazing the way he got traded last year, because last year he pretty much got traded for two prospects we've never heard of, which is not a good sign for Columbus. And now, there's talks of top prospects or even maybe a late first round pick. And then what team do you think he would best fit on? Because personally, I kind of think the Oilers would be an interesting fit for him, but he likes to play as a center now. But Edmonton's already stacked in their top six for in terms of scoring centers. But I feel like they need more defensive centers, and Domi per se is not the best defensive center out there, and is not really what the Oilers need down the middle, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna throw in the spot here. What team do you think you'd like to see Domi go to?
Good question. I'd have to think now. um, yeah, that's a tough one. Imagine he gets traded back to Carolina. That'd be hilarious.
Oh my god.
That'd be a good fit. I mean, personally, I think he'd be a great fit on a team like even Boston too. A team like Boston, he plays physical like them, right? I think he'd fit in Bruins hockey. Maybe not so much as a center because like they have depth down the middle, but um, I can see him as a winger and maybe on the second line or whatever, right? So I think a team like maybe Carolina again, maybe run it up with Carolina again, or Boston, or maybe a team out west. But even Edmonton, like you said. But I think if he went to Edmonton, he'd probably have to, come to a realization that he's going to play on the wing there, right? And he's not going to get much time at center. Maybe maybe a couple games here and there, but that's probably about it.
This is an interesting comment from NHL Hockey News Reports.
He told me at Hawks for another year. He loves it there and loves being with that's a good point because I know like Luke Richardson is a lot of guys loved him in Montreal, right? So I bet maybe Richardson was one of the reasons why he signed there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if he stays in Chicago and they add him as part of the rebuild, I mean that would be a bad idea. Like I said, right? I mean, you got to think that they're listening offers to him, but like you got to think when you're in a rebuild too, you need to keep some like veteran pieces there, and he's considered a veteran, right? Because he's in what year 9 or 10, right? So
Yeah. And even this guy right here said that Richardson was a big part of why the Habs were on the deep playoff run. I don't know if you got the book yet, but
I have not, but I've listened to some of his podcast appearances, and man, I love how outspoken he was in that book. I love it, man. Some of the shit that I did not expect to hear, he said it, man. He's just an open book, and I love it.
yeah, he confirmed so many suspicions that I had. Like about everything, just about my entire belief with the Habs. Like he just confirmed so many suspicions, which was absolutely amazing in that book.
Where did you get the book, by the way? Because I might buy it soon.
I got it at Indigo. Like they finally released the English copy there at Indigo, so it came out later than the French. I thought, okay, finally nice to have the English edition. I haven't started reading it yet, but I know a lot of stuff that's come out in that book. But
oh yeah, I can't wait.
There's been a lot of interesting stuff like with Pacioretty that's come out in that book, and then Bergevin and all of them.
Oh, some very, very spicy content, and it's
and Ducharme.
Yeah, Ducharme, man. There was some of the stuff that I was hearing on Twitter, like right after the book got released, and people were like commenting on it. I was like, wow, this guy just retired, and he's just already like just exposing people. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Imagine just leaving a job and just fucking letting it rip on everybody there. That's crazy, man. Oh man.
I remember that Nyland podcast appearance. It was like, did you think anyone would get hurt or have their feelings hurt by what you said? And then he's like, nope, I didn't think anyone's feelings would get hurt.
Yeah, I couldn't believe Knuckles said something like that, because he's like pretty tough guy in a lot of ways, right? And the fact that he was like thinking of that, I was like, damn, that's impressive, right? So that was a good episode though for anyone that's that was a great episode. I'm just reading this here. Can't take Domi cap. Okay, that makes sense. Maybe they're tied up against the cap. Getting anything for Dadonov is amazing. Getting a quality prospect is a miracle. Hey, good haul. It was still a good haul for him. So even if they got a fifth rounder for him, it's something, right? That fifth rounder can end up being something great.
Yeah.
I know the Hawks moving literally everyone, moving literally. Sorry, I'm very tired right now, guys. I'm trying to wing this.
Gotta get you some coffee in you.
I don't drink coffee actually, so I usually I don't know how I survive.
Neither do I.
I can't, man. I've tried it so many times. It's just not my thing, man. I don't know. Let's see. The Hawks moving literally everyone, but keep Domi. I mean, hey, why not? Spill the tea, I say. Lots of fan interaction in the stream tonight, guys. I
love this fan interaction. Like we want you guys to be interacting and keeping this positive Habs community.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I love the conversation. This is why we do this, right? We love talking about hockey. It's just something we're all passionate about and that we love, right? So Yeah, man. Good stuff. I wanted to switch gears a little, buddy. Let's talk about Patrick Marleau's retirement, jersey retirement the other night on Saturday night. That's a pretty cool thing, man. Congrats to him on getting his jersey retired. And he was obviously a San Jose Sharks legend. And, like you said, Damon, before we hopped on here, he was just one of the best players ever to not win a cup.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that I'm still surprised this day that he never won a cup. He was a really good player and like leads the league in games played.
Mm-hmm.
But he got so close in 2016, and I think that him not winning cup just goes to show how hard it is to win the cup in the NHL. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember during the ceremony, I didn't get to watch it all, but I saw some clips and highlights. Like we saw him and Joe Thornton, who's someone else who deserves a cup but didn't win it yet. Like we saw him getting pretty emotional, and I'm pretty sure now. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think Marleau's now working for the Sharks. I think.
Yeah, I believe so. I think he does have some kind of role with them, which is pretty cool to see. Yeah, it was good stuff though. I mean, personally, I would love to see Joe get a cup, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Even hey, I don't know if this is a crazy idea, but maybe he should have just signed like an American League deal. Try to just go for a Calder Cup. He would have. He could still play in the American League, even though he's a little bit older. He'd still play well. Go for a Calder
Mhm.
Cup, right? So yeah, man, it was good stuff. I heard one story about Patrick Marleau that I heard from a book from Jeremy Roenick. I don't know if you've heard about this, Damon, but apparently Jeremy Roenick wrote a book like a number of years ago, and he said that the teammate that he hated the most was Patrick Marleau, and he apparently after a loss, he actually like my brother told me this because he read like parts of like of the book or something like that, or he heard quotes from the book, right? Apparently, he went to Marlowe's house after a loss and confronted him about it.
What? I did not. This is my first time hearing about this, but
Yeah,
you drive to a teammate's house to confront them about a loss?
yeah, because he didn't. Jeremy Roenick Jr. didn't think he played well, so he went over to his house after and confronted him about it.
That's
Yeah, he
crossing the line.
yeah. Hey, that those teams didn't. Those teams didn't win back then. He explains why.
Mhm.
There was some turmoil. Let's see this. Marlowe, one of the best skaters on the team. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, his that's true. His legs were kind of slowing down near the end. Even like when he was with the Leafs, his legs were kind of starting to kind of slow down a little bit. But oh yeah, he was always the best skater, like year after year. He was unbelievable how quick he was.
Yeah, I actually have something funny to mention about Marleau. I had the feeling that contract had a bad AAV when he signed with the Leafs
Yeah.
because of his history and his age. And then I remember I was arguing with some Leaf fans about it at school like when I came back to school from the summer, and I said like I don't think that Marleau contract's gonna work out well for you because just look at it. It's this much, and you guys don't have much cap room, and you still haven't signed Marner, Matthews, and Nylander long term. And they're like, "Oh, it's the future. We'll worry about that later." And I said, and I'm like, "You're still worrying about winning a playoff round. You deviated from your entire plan to break the bank for John Tavares."
They shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, that was quite the interesting stuff
Yeah,
that
that's
happened.
that's one thing I will say. Like I've said this like even years later. Like I mean, I look at Tavares' numbers. He's playing good this year, and he's been obviously fairly consistent with the Leafs throughout his tenure. But like, just that contract has just really tied them up like cap wise. But I mean, I think hey, they're making it work somehow. They've improved their team quite a bit with the trade deadline. We got to talk about some of the trades they made. Obviously, we already talked about Ryan O'Reilly last week, but Jake McCabe was today. That was a good trade. Good defenseman who could play on both sides. And before we get to that, I want to read this comment. Roenick wasn't the best teammate either, so he should. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
true.
remember he
Roenick
made
was.
a weird comment about Thomas Chabot. I remember he said, "I hate how all these young NHL players make millions before they're proven." And then I agree with that comment to some extent of the modern
He's
day game.
right.
And he said Thomas Chabot. Well, yeah, you used Thomas Chabot as the example as someone who wasn't proven, and I do believe by that point, Thomas Chabot was proven in a sense because Thomas Chabot was the number one D-man on the Sens for about 2 seasons by that point when he earned his long-term contract. It's like, why don't you like talk about Mitch Marner or someone else who wasn't fully proven by that point?
Yeah, that's a good point because like uh, he's right because I mean back when I started watching hockey, like they didn't make as much money as they do now, and they really had to like prove it, you know. Um, Now it's like you can have like a freaking 40-point season and you'll get like $5 million. Like I get that point that they're making, like the older generation of players are like venting about. But hey, that's just the nature of it now. That's a lot of sports now. Like a lot of people are asking for more money. It doesn't even matter what sport, like hockey, football, basketball, whatever you name it. Everyone just wants to get paid, right? And now there's a market for that. So hey, it is what it is, right? Gotta give this comment a little. Yeah, we love this show.
Try to thank
We
you guys so much.
thank you so much. We appreciate the love. Thank you so much. It's a bitter old. You're not wrong. You're not wrong, Andrew. You're not wrong, my friend. He definitely is. Nah, I mean, yeah, he's I don't know. He makes some good points sometimes. He's a personality, but I mean, I know he got in trouble a few years ago. I remember he got let go by NBC. He said some pretty bad stuff, right? So it's like, he's give or take, right? He says some good things. He says some like fucked up things. He says some things that aren't the best takes, right? But
Oh wait, he got let go by NBC. I thought that was Mike Milbury, or was there another incident that happened?
there was another incident. There was the Mike Milbury one where I think he made like a sexist comment like during a game in the bubble, and yeah, it was. I'm gonna steal your Habs merch. Oh man, I got nothing for you to steal. So I mean, you can. Hey, if you want to take all of Damon's stuff, go right ahead. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
this is the Habs merch is just a fraction of what I have here.
Oh, there you go. There you go. But yeah, he Mike Milbury did say some. Yeah, he did say something pretty bad. I can't. It was
I think
sexist
it was a
remark.
misogynistic comment he made
Something, yeah, along those lines. I don't exactly remember what he said, but
in the bubble.
yeah, and I remember it was like quick, like boom, done. Like he said it, and then people were talking about it on like the internet, and there was outrage, and then it was boom, he's fired. I was like, wow. I was like, can't believe it took this to fire him. He said so many stupid things in the past, but hey, good that NBC made a good decision. He was a terrible. I hate. Oh man, that guy is a piece of work. Um, but Jr. I think he was on Spit and Chicklets. I think so. He wasn't on like the NBC panel or anything, but it was still something that's like, it's not really a good look, right? So yeah, that guy's definitely again, he's another player too, like great player back in the day, but just never won a cup.
Oh, thank you, NHL Hockey News Reports. I try to like build this background so you guys can see like all the cool stuff, but hopefully one day I can make some changes to it and it makes it looks even nicer.
Nah, you got a pretty good background there, buddy. That's
Thank
pretty
you,
awesome.
Adrian.
Good stuff. No problem, man. I'm just in my room. I don't have much here. I mean, I just have all my. You can't really see much, but I got all my baseball caps. I got some jerseys hanging up. I actually do have something I want to show you guys. Give me 1 sec.
Let's do this. Oh, that's a nice jersey, Adrian.
Thanks, man. My godmother got me this years ago with the Centennial patch, the All Star patch. This jersey's been worn so much though; it's like not in the greatest shape because I wore it like everywhere. So I'm gonna just. I'll be right back, guys. Oh, we got to read this comment too. Did you see PK Subban's eye roll? Yep, I saw that, and I loved it. I loved every bit of it. I have my opinions on Mark Messier. I'll say it. I don't give a shit. I personally, I don't like Mark Messier, guys. I used to love him when again all the stories about him being like a great leader and all that, and then that all went down the drain when I heard about his tenure with the Canucks, and he basically forced them to give him the number 11, and that number was retired because of a player that passed away, and he's still like, I'm sorry, I don't like that. I don't care who you are, like, gotta have some respect, right? And then he basically ripped the C off Trevor Linden's jersey and put it on his own, and after that, he just left a bad taste in my mouth. And obviously, his hockey takes on ESPN are pretty bad too. So then there's that.
Yeah, I read his book this summer, and he talked about a lot of different the different things he was involved with in terms of hockey, and I found it a pretty interesting book. But I didn't find it as engaging as a read as Max Domi's book was, Brian Burke's book was, and also Nick Kipros's book was. But I did see that eye roll, but it's like different generations commenting on different things. And back in the old days, you could probably take a stick and slash someone across the face and not go to jail pretty much. Like you didn't have to worry about getting the penalty box.
Yeah, fuck, that'd be like a five game suspension now. But back then, it was like you might get a warning from the ref, right? So it's definitely, yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, let's. Oh, got another comment. Surprisingly, I bought one jersey in the past 15 years. It's also a Carey Price jersey. Nice. I think Jack Guy is going to be my next. Jack Guy Bedard. Oh, I like your touch.
Oh,
Or Pizzetta, of course. Nice. Those are some good choices. Hopefully the Bedard one comes true, and
mhm.
the jersey sales are going to skyrocket. So
Oh my goodness. If we get Bedard, I'm probably gonna be the first person on the planet to buy his jersey, but I don't know which number he's gonna wear. Is it gonna be 98
probably
or whatever?
because number 16 is retired, obviously, right? So Montreal
Yeah.
will
He
go.
also wore 17 as well, but I think that's retired too. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it is. Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah, for Montreal, it's a lot of retired numbers. So a lot of guys wear the higher numbers in Montreal because all the lower ones are retired. So because there's so many legends that have played for this amazing franchise. Hockey Junkie Road to 10K. Oh, that's pretty cool. Got to give him a little bit of a plug here. Hey, give Hockey Junkie a shout out and
Hockey
NHL News
Junkie,
Reports.
one of my favorite Habs YouTubers out there.
That's awesome. I love his avatar too. Is it Bobby Clark there?
Yeah.
It's bloody amazing.
And in Spider-Man, John Lou, I don't know if you saw that at all.
No, what was that?
Oh, in some of his videos, he has Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, but John Lou's face photoshopped on him.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is.
That's amazing.
Okay, so 17 isn't retired. Okay, so maybe he
Oh,
could wear 17.
oh, maybe. Thanks for checking for that, Andrew. I appreciate it. That's awesome. Um, yeah, let's get in. Let's change gears here. Maybe I guess you could say, but there was a number of trades in the this whole weekend. There was Timo Meyer yesterday. Man, that trade took hours to finalize. It was crazy. Look at all those players going the other way. It's craziness. To be honest with you, the only player I really recognize, aside from Timo Meyer and Scott Harrington, is Andreas Janssen. I personally don't know these other guys. I don't know much about them.
Oh my goodness, I'm embarrassed right now. I can't believe we talked about 17 and didn't mention Josh
Oh, oh
Anderson.
my
I
god.
look like an idiot right now.
It's okay. I'm sorry, Josh Anderson. Hopefully you're not watching this. I am sorry. You are not. You are.
We
You are a
apologize.
very important player. You are not like a not unimportant player. I'm very sorry. Sorry to the fans. That was kind of embarrassing, but it's okay. It happens to the best of us. Happens to the best of us. But
Yeah, this
yeah.
trade, like I'm amazed by it because we
What are
heard
your
he was
thoughts, man?
going to the Devils, but then it took hours for everything to unfold. It was pretty much a grind like the Sean Monahan trade, but when the Sean
Mm.
Monahan trade happened, I was in Greece. 7 o'clock in Greece when I first heard about it, and then I went to bed at 3 a.m. finally having everything finalized. But I know some of these players. Fabian Zetterlund is a fourth line guy for the Devils. Janssen, I know. Nikita Hatyuk, he played for the 67s, and he was a pretty good player for the Ottawa 67s. And Shakir Mukhamadullin was a former first-round pick in the 2020 draft.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
But then a
well,
lot of these other guys, like I know Scott Harrington and Timo Meyer, but the rest I don't really know much about. But I've heard Zach Edmonds' name before, but that's about it, like with my knowledge. But I still think this is quite the haul for Timo Meyer, and the Devils, it's imperative they re-sign him.
yeah,
If
you
they
got to
don't,
think.
it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, I agree. They gave up a lot. I think you know what. Looking at it, both teams got a good return. You got two potential first round picks there for the Sharks, but also on the other hand, the Devils got the best player in the trade, right?
Mhm.
So it kind of works out for both teams. Personally, you're absolutely right, Damon. You got to think like they got to resign him because that's a huge haul for a rental. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to think like he's got to at least sign like at least a 4-year deal, something. You know?
Yeah, and just switching gears to this trade,
Good
I don't know
lord,
if I have no idea if Julian Breezeball was on one last night, or
what
if David
the
Poyle has
hell?
a ton of dirt on him that he forced him to make this trade. But this
Man,
trade, I am scratching my head at how this is even a reality. I know Tanner Jeannot is a good playoff guy. He's a gritty bottom
yeah.
six forward, but I'm just amazed that you'd only get a conditional first round pick. You also get a second round pick, you get a third round pick, you get a fourth round pick,
How?
and you get a fifth round pick.
Like I don't understand. Like oh my god, what was Tampa doing? What was Breezewad thinking when he made this trade?
I swear the
Like,
GMs now don't care about the mess.
oh my
They make a mess, but they
god.
don't care if they're gonna clean it up. Like that's the I guess is my only
Oh,
explanation.
oh my god. Like, why all the draft picks? Oh, I don't know. Like, I mean, Dave Poyle was probably laughing when he was hanging up the phone. I don't know if you've seen Wolf of Wall Street, but
Jordan
the
Belfort.
where when he's like ripping off the guy with the penny stocks, and he's like on the other line saying like I can't. There's expletives I'm not going to repeat, but he's like saying it under his breath. And anyone that's seen that movie, that was probably the exact same scene though. And I'm like, he was probably like thinking, what's he? Wow, like I don't know.
Yeah.
Ah, there you go. Ah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what Tampa was just thinking making this
I
trade.
like this
I
comment from Andrew.
Oh
I
man,
That
I
was
don't
my
know.
immediate reaction. What was Breezewell smoking last night?
Oh god, man, that's just like I don't know what to say, man. Like it's crazy. Like I don't know, man. Can John Cooper throw a fit like the coach? Can't coach a team with no. Yeah, that's true.
Which
They're
Kevin
gonna have.
Costner movie is I'm trying to think.
I think
Kev-
it's is it Field of Dreams?
Might be Field of Dreams.
I
Might be,
feel
I
like
don't
I'm.
know. That was a good movie, Field of Dreams though.
Oh, amazing movie. Correct us if we're wrong though, but I'm thinking Field of Dreams. It's the only Kevin Costner movie I can really think of. But yeah, he's right though. Like they
Oh, it was
have.
Draft Day.
Oh right,
I don't think
yes,
I've
yes,
seen
yes.
Draft Day. It's like one of the few
I don't know
movies
if
I
I've
haven't
seen
seen,
it.
and trust me, I've probably seen every movie out there.
That's awesome. Draft. Yeah, fuck Draft Day. That's right. Yeah. Um, man, I don't know. I still can't wrap my head around this one, Damon. Like I don't know what they were thinking, but Preds that's a huge dub for the Preds. That's like just again Dave Poyle like just working his magic. I guess you know he's made a lot of good trades in the past, but let's see this. Okay, think of a GM standpoint. You want to keep your job. You don't really care about. Yeah, that's true. No, you got a point there. Some guys are like here's an example: Kyle Dubas, right? Making a lot of trades and being aggressive. You're not thinking long term. You're kind of thinking now, and you want to keep your job, right? So, uh,
This comment from Andrew.
oh man, I don't know what what the fuck. Tampa Bay was thinking, man. Oh my god, this is brutal. Ah,
And like, who comes out of the lineup for them now? Like they
I
have a
know.
well-rounded forward core. My best guess is either like Ross Colton or something, but Ross Colton is still a very good player.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Or I don't know if you take out Patrick Maroon or something, or Nemesnikov maybe. I don't know.
I personally would. I don't know, man. Like I probably, yeah, you're probably thinking either it's probably gonna be Nemestikov because Big Rig is Big Rig, right? He's gotten that respect,
Always
right?
tripping
So,
everyone. You have
yeah,
as many
he
points as me. That's embarrassing, bud.
I
That was hilarious in
love
the
that.
playoffs with Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson, get on the bench.
That
Get as many
was
points as me,
amazing.
bud.
That's amazing. Those two are so funny, man. Like I love Big Rig, man. I take him on the Habs any day.
Same here. And this trade here says to
Yeah,
us, as Jim Carrey would once say, so you're telling me there's a chance.
chance.
I cannot do a Jim Carrey impression. Drew Deeks can probably do the best Jim Carrey impression
Oh,
on the planet.
definitely.
We should have found a way to get his so you're telling me there's a chance impression on here tonight, but the reason why I'm saying that is because Mike Hoffman and Nino Niederreiter are
Similar
not that
players.
far off in point production. Both have a year left in their contract at about $4 million and no salary retention.
Oh man. Hey, if they have the, I mean, if they're about the same, hey, we could probably, hey, after that trade Tampa made, we could definitely get good value for some players on our team. So I don't know,
Guys,
man.
I'd honestly make trades in December and January. You know what? I think that's a bit more fair if you're closer to the playoff
Yeah,
race.
that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the Niederreiter move is definitely a good depth move for the Jets. I think maybe a second rounder was a little bit steep for him, but you got to think like they're every team's trying to make a push, right? So I'm just gonna check his stats here before I continue on here. Where's that? Let's see. How is he? Nino Niederreiter. I still remember Nino Niederreiter when he was like just drafted by the Islanders, and then Camilleri like golf swung him right in the freaking wrist or something.
I think I remember that. I don't remember. It
Yeah,
was Camilleri. Remember the Habs when he did that? Because I'm trying to remember that.
yeah, it was a preseason game, and I remember like he like whacked him right with his stick, and he got suspended. Uh
Camilleri was a personality. I remember
yeah, he
Gervais
was.
dropped some dirt on him as well.
Ooh, I really need to get that book, dude. That's crazy. Oh
I don't
man.
know if he said it in one of the podcast appearances that Michael Camilleri was a personality no one could handle.
Yeah, I did hear some things about him in his time in Montreal. So I did hear some things. That's all I'm gonna say. For Niederreiter though, 18 goals this year. That's impressive. 18 goals, 10 assists. You got 28 and 56, so he's just like under half a point a game, like or about a half a point a game, more or less. That's not bad for what you're getting for him. That's a good depth move, right? I'd say.
I agree. And now there
Yeah.
was the other interesting news: Ivan Barbashev for Zach Dean.
Hmm.
Found this was an interesting trade, but
Yeah.
Vegas, I have to say this: where is your future? Where is it?
Didn't Zach Dean? He was on the World Junior roster. He played pretty
He
well too.
he was, yeah, he was a pretty good fourth line guy, but he was not very disciplined when it came to the double IHF standard of roles.
Oh
He
yeah.
thought it was the QMJHL, and he thought he could run someone into the boards and not get a penalty or a suspension for that matter.
God, man, international hockey. My God. But I mean, that's Barbashev's a good player, so you got to think like Vegas is kind of in a win now situation. I mean, we've been saying that for the last like freaking 5 years, I think, since they've
Yeah,
been
their
in the cup
owner.
final.
Oh my goodness, I remember. I think it's like Bill Foley.
Oh,
I think he said he wants the team to win while he's alive. So he's throwing mortgaging the future to try to win while he's alive, pretty much.
they're like Vegas has a good team. It's just they're not good enough compared to the other teams. Like they have good players, like obviously Jack Eichel and like Mark Stone and Petrangelo, Theodore. Like they have good they have a decent, like, well-rounded team. It's just they don't have, yeah, they don't have a future, first of all, and there's just teams that are better than them. There's just teams that have better goaltending and everything else, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I can't think of a first rounder on Vegas who's still with the team. Like you can't even think of one. You can't even name a first
Yeah,
rounder who Vegas drafted who's still with the team. In their inaugural
legit.
season, they had 3 first round picks. Brandstrom, gone to Ottawa. Suzuki, Montreal. Cody Glass,
Nashville.
Nashville, yeah.
Yeah, that's and then 2019.
Peyton
Um,
Krebs,
yeah, he's on Buffalo. 2020. Excuse me.
2020. I
Who
don't remember if
would
they
have got
had
supposed to?
one. I'm trying to
Probably
remember.
not because they trade half of their damn draft picks.
Yeah.
Oh man, that yeah. They honestly, I don't like Vegas very much. Not a fan. So our asset management has been absolutely terrible, and I don't feel bad at all.
I know. And Pacioretty was traded away for nothing, and we don't feel bad.
Legit, like I think
And he was
one
our
of
points leader.
oh man, well that hey they're in salary cap disaster, right? So you got to think like, and that I know there's been a lot of stuff that's come out about him, but that the Achilles injury sucks, man, and I hope he's like recovering from that quick. And you never like to see that.
Yeah, he's a good player, and I think it would be nice to see him win a cup. And hopefully, he can come back. I don't know, like
Yeah.
this year, it's kind of tough for him because he's in a contract year, and a lot of teams don't know if they'll want to take him on or take that risk of giving him a big contract, and if he's going to be injury prone. So you never know with Pacioretty, but I think a
Yeah.
lot of it depends on how well he takes care of his body, and I don't think that's something I should be commenting on per se because like I'm not him, like I'm not in his shoes 24/7, so. I will say like a lot of it is going to be on him and how his health is, but
Mhm.
like a lot of it's going to be out of our control. So like it would be nice to see him win a cup, but he's a pretty good player, Pacioretty. But I still can't believe future considerations for your point leader.
I
What team
know.
does that?
Again,
Like
that's just
it still fires me up.
I know, dude. It's bad. Like it just tells you how terrible their asset management is, and how terrible their cap situation is. Like how they've let it get to that point, right? They have to like put guys on the LTIR just to make freaking room for players. Like it's insane what they've
Mark
done to
Stone.
them. Yeah, like I swear
They're
they.
gonna try to pull off a Nikita Kucherov with Mark Stone. Just
Oh,
watch.
absolutely, absolutely, they are. I think
I
they
have no
tried
idea how
last
that's
year with
still a
that.
rule or how that's
I
still a thing.
the next you already know the next like CBA negotiations they're gonna be like really like hunting down on that. It's not gonna probably not gonna be around for much longer. I'm telling you,
I hope it
teams are
isn't.
just manipulating it. You know.
Yeah, people are like, "Oh, we can say he like maybe he cut his wrist, but we're gonna say, oh, he has a broken hand or he got a little bruise. Oh, he broke his arm, so he'll be out until the playoffs." Like
Yeah,
that's pretty much what it is now. Like ever since that happened, like teams are just trying to exploit that. And Vegas tried it last year and it failed on them.
oh yeah, it blew up in their face when they did it with Mark Stone and they missed the playoffs. I was like,
And
yeah,
Jack
that was
Eichel.
yeah, Jack Eichel too. Yeah, they tried it, but it didn't work.
Yeah, I
Just
like
can't wait.
Montreal MUFC's comment here.
Just can't wait until Vegas ends up lingering at the bottom with major cap hell. Yeah, that's so true. It's already kind of happening if you think about it. But yeah. Oh man. I honestly like I said this before the stream to David guys, but like personally, I don't feel bad for Vegas when it comes to like their what's going on with them, how much of a disaster they are. Like the league like pampered them so much since like day one with like the expansion draft and stuff. Like it was just like they were just handed like everything on a silver platter from day one. It was totally rigged, man. Like my dad was like even saying like, "Oh man, why is like first year team and they're already in the finals?" He's like, "What the hell is this?" You know. And he's time I was like, "Nah, it's kind of cool." And then looking back at it, I'm like, "He had a point."
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
And what amazed me about that especially is I think in 2003 it was, they had 2 expansion drafts going on at the same time or 2000, I don't remember exactly the year when
Mhm.
Columbus and Minnesota came in the league. I remember
I think
Doug
it was
McLean, who was the
2000.
GM for Columbus. He was saying this, so at the time said, I hate how the NHL is doing this because it's not fair because when I was a GM of an expansion draft, you could protect so many more players. And there were two drafts going on at the same time, but you have one draft going on and there's less players protected from this expansion draft. And at the time I was curious because this was going to be the first expansion draft when I was a hockey fan going on. So I thought, okay, I'll try Cap Friendly's expansion draft tool. I thought, I'm drafting teams that can actually make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then Vegas, of course, made all those side deals. So I thought, okay, maybe they might make the playoffs, but who knows? Those side deals, oh my god, like those were funny. Like Alex Tuck came out of nowhere with that side deal.
Yeah, that's right. He came out of nowhere. I remember, didn't they acquire like Alexei Emelin at one point when he was still like with the Habs or something?
They drafted Emlyn and we tried to trade to get him back, but then they said they wanted us to pay over, I think they wanted us to pay a second round pick. And they're like, you know what, now we're not going to do that. So we paid a 5th round pick for David Schlemko.
Schlemko wasn't bad though. I actually like that guy.
I didn't mind him.
Yeah, he was pretty good for what they got for him. Hey, not bad,
like he was pretty good for a 5th round pick, Schlemko.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, he was pretty good. He was good with Calgary back in the day when he was there. So I liked him in Calgary. When they acquired him, I love that trade. So yeah, man. Let's I see you pulled up some trades here. Yeah, Vancouver, I gotta say, rare Vancouver W, but they gave away nothing to get Vitaly Kravtsov. That was a great trade.
Yeah, another bald GM who with the W. Patrick Alvin.
I mean, I personally think like the Rangers are just making room for maybe they're making room for Kane. I don't know what the motive on that trade was. I'm not too sure, but good trade. Good for the Canucks. That's a good young player you're getting. I think he was a former first rounder, so
a 9th overall pick.
Yeah, man, there you go. Can't go wrong with that. And then you got below, you got Colorado adding some depth on their goaltending. You got Keith Kincaid going to the Abs from Boston. Shane Bowers. Yeah, it's a minor deal, but you know, I mean, it seemed like Keith Kincaid was doing okay with the Bruins and like Providence, but you know, hey, that's good for Colorado to add some depth. And you know, I personally, I've always liked Keith Kincaid. Like, when the Habs signed him like a number of years ago, I thought he was going to be like a great backup, but obviously things didn't really go as planned with him, unfortunately. But you know, I hope him well. I wish him well with this trade. Maybe he'll find a home in Colorado. We'll see.
I agree. Like looking back at that, I thought it was a good signing to give Carey Price some rest, but I feel the team when Keith Kincaid played, he played well, but the team just didn't play with that motivation and that swagger that they needed to get the win those nights.
Mm-hmm.
But Keith Kincaid is one of the weirdest hockey players out there. I'll say that. I don't know if you know who Puck Empire is, the guy on Instagram who posts like all the news updates and all that.
I think I've heard of him. Yeah, Puck Empire. I've heard of him.
He made a goalie tier list, and Keith Kincaid saw his name in the AHL tier and started trolling Puck Empire and making memes about him and posting it on his main Instagram account. And I thought, oh my god, like he's Keith Kincaid, an NHL goalie who's paid millions, is trolling some hockey news account. It was pretty funny.
I think his Twitter used to be pretty funny back in the day when I used to be more active on it. I think he said some pretty funny stuff back then. He's got a personality, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Shane Bowers is an interesting piece for the Bruins to receive because he just never really worked out wherever he got drafted. In Ottawa, he was one of the first pieces gone in that Matt Duchene trade.
Oh, really?
And then he just never really panned out in Colorado, so hopefully he can pan out in Boston.
Hey, Boston seems to be doing it right lately, so hey, you never know.
I just want to switch gears here quickly to Thatcher Demko.
Yes.
Because we know that there's been a lot on him recently, and we're thinking he's looking for a new home, and we understand why completely. If we were in his shoes, we'd probably want to get out of Vancouver as well.
Yeah, fucking disaster. Yeah, that was an interesting report. I think it was Andy Strickland, was it, Damen, that reported that he might be willing to move on from Vancouver?
I think so, yeah. Andy Strickland, yeah.
From Twitter. I saw a tweet. I think it was shared in our group chat. Yeah, he's a great goalie. Personally, I think I would love to see the Habs try and make a trade for him because we need a goalie long term. He's only 26 years old. Well, he's gonna be 27 this year, like me. But he's a great goalie. He obviously like made a name for himself in the bubble playoffs. Like stood on his head in that one series, and yeah, I would love to see the Habs make a trade for him. Well, I don't know what his asking price is going to be, mind you. I don't know what that would be. Like, I don't know what Vancouver would be asking for, but Montreal seems to have like the assets to make a trade for him. We'll see though. But what do you think, David?
I mean, I think it would be interesting to see him in a Habs uniform, but I don't know if he's the goalie I want for us because right now, because we're still years away from contending and he's entering his prime right now. But I'd want a goalie to come play with us when we start contending once they enter their prime. So that's kind of my approach with it. And I think that there's other teams that could definitely benefit from a Thatcher Demko. But I'm not sure that we would benefit from him if we were to get him today per se. So I just think it's a very it's one of those very interesting situations because I think Patrick Allvin is sort of at a disadvantage because people know that he wants out, and he'll be forced into a situation where he can take what he will get for Thatcher Demko.
Yeah, that's a good point though. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. I think wherever he goes, he'll obviously make an impact on that team. Sorry. But yeah, that's very interesting news. Slowly but surely, the Canucks are just gutting their team and just starting from scratch.
I mean, hopefully they start the rebuild properly. I mean, Jim Benning, I have my opinions on him, and I do not hold back. He half-assed the rebuild.
Totally did. Totally did.
I remember he didn't just half-ass it. I remember after the bubble, like when the bubble play happened, I thought, okay, like the Canucks team I think could come out of this looking good, maybe. But then he didn't play his cards right, and he let a lot of his key defensemen who were good for him, especially that playoff run, such as Oscar Fittenberg, who's now playing in Europe, and Troy Stetcher, who's playing for the Coyotes, just leave. And those guys played really good bottom pair minutes for the Canucks, and they really felt it. Like they felt that loss. On the back end especially, and they were letting goals past them, and Tyler Toffoli was making some work in that 2020-2021 season on the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, that's what I was actually just about to say that too. Like they didn't even give Toffoli an offer. He was just straight up rental, but like I would have tried to keep him because obviously look how good he's still playing even in Calgary. He's playing pretty good, right? So yeah, I don't understand the thought process of that, and even like how well they played in the bubble in 2020. I would have thought like, hey, you got to keep this team together and you got to rally, from what you just did, and it was very, very interesting. But maybe they're gonna finally do it properly. From what Jim Rutherford said, that literally publicly said he wants Connor Bedard. So you already know that there's a rebuild coming. When you say something like that, rebuild's coming, which is good because they just need one desperately. So.
Yeah, and I just want to switch gears here to the Eastern Conference wildcard race. Yes. In the West, I'd say the playoffs was more set per se, because you have the teams that are doing well in the West, but in the East, you have a lot of teams fighting for those last two playoff spots. You have the New York Islanders who have been buying quite a bit. You have the Buffalo Sabres who have been a great story so far this season. Mm-hmm. You have the Washington Capitals and Pittsburgh Penguins who don't really miss the playoffs in recent years. Pittsburgh, it's been a long time since they've missed, but Washington, I think the last time they missed was 2013-14, the year the Habs went on their amazing run that was ended by Mr. Chris Kreider. Yeah. And then you have the Florida Panthers who are staying in it, but they don't have any games in hand, so I kind of want to I hope and I kind of will kind of cross them out of making it. So who do you think takes those last two playoff spots to throw you on the spot?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me look at the standings. When I look at the standings, I get a better idea. Let's see, wild card. As of right now, Pittsburgh and the Islanders are in a spot, but I think it's going to be Buffalo and the Islanders.
I agree with that. That's same in my opinion as well. Yeah, I don't think Pittsburgh just has enough anymore. We kind of know the obvious. They're not winning another cup with a score.
Nah, man. Again, I love Crosby. I love Gino and Letang, but they're hitting 35, 36 years old. They can't do it anymore, you know. They can't just carry like they used to, you know. Like they kind of need a little bit more around them, per se. But they don't have much. Like some of like those guys they have on some of those contracts are like pretty bad. Like Jeff Carter, like who's aging, and like some of these guys that again, I'll do respect to those guys, but just they're not gonna they're not gonna do it with that core anymore. Like the goal, I mean, Tristan Jari's a good goalie, you know. Like I think he's spectacular, but like you know, I just they don't have much. They don't have much, you know. It's a shame because they've Pittsburgh's been one of the most successful franchises like for you know almost 2 decades, right? So
Yeah.
it's yeah, I just they don't have much in the tank anymore though. It's such a shame.
Yeah, and in Pittsburgh, I will say this compared to a lot of other teams, at least they have some future, but they don't really have too much of a future. They at least they have Samuel Poulin and Owen Pickering as
Mhm.
good prospects, but besides that, they barely have anything.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because they're in a situation too where kind of like, you know, what the Canucks with the Sedins, where people are like they should have traded them, you know, when they had the chance to try and start the rebuild. But like Pittsburgh, you know, you can't trade Malkin and Crosby in the tank. That's absolutely not going to happen. Like everything that they've done for you know that team, right? Like those are guys that are going to be lifers in Pittsburgh, kind of just like how the Sedins were lifers in Vancouver, right? Like that's the thing. I would probably like might sound extremely crazy saying this, but that'd probably be the best way. But you can't trade guys like that, though. Those are guys, you know, you just have so much respect like for those guys in those organization, and you know, they've carried them for years. You can't just, you know, you can't just trade them just like that.
Yeah, I don't. In my guess is I doubt they get offloaded. Those three guys.
They won't.
My guess is they're probably just going to retire when their contracts end, and then get their jersey numbers retired, and then Pittsburgh's probably going to start completely fresh there, and then start the rebuild. But
Mhm.
when the rebuild starts, I remember Pittsburgh went through them during the dark years. They barely had attendance at their stadiums. I remember they nearly relocated to Kansas City. I wonder how their attendance is going to be during this rebuild.
Yeah, there was Kansas City, and there was also Hamilton.
Oh, Hamilton was not. I
Hamilton,
had no idea about Hamilton.
yeah. Back in 2006, I remember the BlackBerry CEO of the time, Jim Balsillie, wanted to own an NHL team, and he wanted to move the Penguins to Hamilton, but never happened, right? But um, yeah, I mean, personally though, like that's a good question. Although I will say this, I think the impacts of Crosby and Malkin have really changed the hockey culture in Pittsburgh. So I think people will still like come to the games regard excuse me, regardless like of the product on the ice. I think it's just they've really built that foundation of like a great hockey culture in Pittsburgh, and Sidney Crosby just single handedly saved that franchise from moving, right? So definitely, I still think they're going to probably sell. They're still going to sell tickets. I mean, if they do it properly and they just, you know, that's it, right? They're probably just going to be a bubble team from now until whenever those three amazing players retire. You know, they're probably just going to be kind of middle of the pack, and then, like you said, they're just going to probably just tear it up after that.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever got the chance to see Urinating Trees video on when we beat the Penguins in the bubble. Still one of my
What,
favorite videos to this day.
what was it?
Oh,
I didn't see it.
he pretty much said, I had a slight feeling that when this matchup was announced, the Habs would find a way to lose this series, or the Pens would find a way to lose this series. Maybe it was because the team was playing bad towards the end of this, towards the pause. And he went on a rant about how the Penguins should be embarrassed for losing to the Montreal Canadiens, a team that was swept by the effing Red Wings this season. And he was saying, "Where were you, Malkin?" Just instead of face washing all these players and not players, he did a funny rant, but like Malkin was pretty much unnoticeable in that series, which
Yeah,
was pretty funny. I'll say it.
yeah.
Like
A lot of
Kotkaniemi had more of an impact in that series. Or actually, you know what? I'll say this and make Malkin look even worse. Armia had more of an impact.
not you're not wrong there. He definitely did. Malkin didn't do much in that series. I know that was a great series though. Looking back at it now, like how they upset Pittsburgh and that was
We should
awesome.
have beat Philly.
I know that was bullshit, man. Like I looking
I
back
know.
at it, like Carter Hart was just standing on his head though.
God mode.
Yeah, he was on Carey Price level, dude. He was looking like him. It was crazy, but
Mhm.
that was honestly that was a good playoff though. Aside from that shitty outcome, and I just don't like Philly, so losing to them was quite shitty. But
I don't like Philly either. Believe me, if you find someone who likes Philly,
oh, I've met lots of Flyers fans. I don't know how the hell they do it, mind you, but what's this? Pittsburgh in the playoffs is that? Oh, that's true. Yeah, 2010, 2020, 10 years, and they beat them.
yeah.
Back 10 years later.
Oh, yeah, this is a funny comment. That rant by Tree was on the same level as Rage as the Steelers losing to the Jaguars back in 2018.
Oh yeah, when they had Blake Bortles. Oh god, Blake Bortles. That guy's a legend, though. I remember he was on Barstool Sports years ago, and there was he was doing an interview, and um, he was they're asking him what would you do if you weren't a professional athlete, like a quarterback, and he's like, yeah, I'd probably be hacking darts on a construction site or something.
Who openly says I'd be hacking darts in a construction site?
That's amazing.
Oh
And
my
I just
goodness.
look at Blake Bortles.
Maybe Michelle Therrien would.
Oh God, Michelle Therrien would be the site foreman, man. He'd be swearing at guys for not working fast enough, taking a hit out of his cigarettes, blowing in guys' faces, and oh man, that'd be something else.
Oh, so 1998 as well. Okay.
Oh shit!
I didn't know about 1998.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was 2 years old then, so I obviously didn't know shit.
I wasn't even born.
Oh man, I feel old. I was born in 1996, so that's 27 years ago. Unfortunately, that makes me feel really old. I'll be 30 in 3 years. It's depressing. Yeah,
I'm still called the baby of the team here, but I was born in 2002.
You were born in 02? Oh yeah, you're 20. Yeah, my God, man, I remember
21.
Sorry, 21. Oh yeah, that's right. Your birthday was a few. I'm so sorry, buddy.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's
Your birthday was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, man. So I personally, I think Pittsburgh's gonna miss the playoffs. Did you see the Fire Hextall chants the other day?
Oh my God, yeah. I was like, oh my goodness, this Philadelphia Flyers just must be making them feel better because if Hextall left the Flyers, I mean, I think he worked for the Flyers for a bit, then got fired, then went to work for Pittsburgh. I don't know if he's doing some inside work for the Flyers, but this is pretty funny. Those chants. And it reminds me of something that I'm going through as a Chelsea fan. Our coach Graham Potter is not really capable is the right word of coaching a big club like Chelsea, and the mentality's changed a lot. And all the fans are booing our manager Potter because he's not really qualified for the job. And it I have no idea how I am still cheering on Chelsea. Penguins fans, I understand you don't like your management, but man, Chelsea, we're run worse than Pittsburgh.
Oh, there's Arsenal too. That
Arsenal's at least they're contending for the league now, at least.
Oh, true. I know a lot of people shit on Arsenal though. Man United's really tough right now. They're in a tough.
They won the Carabao Cup this weekend, and
they won some. I heard something about that cup they won or something. Well, what
it was
is
a great
that
game
cup?
though. It's just a domestic England cup. That's all it really is.
Okay. I don't follow as much UEFA as much as I used to, so.
Yeah, UEFA have a lot of opinions on them. I just want them to bring down the axe on Manchester City. I don't know if you heard about the financial fair play stuff involving them.
No, what happened?
Apparently, they've been violating financial fair play for the past 10, 20 years or something. It's crazy. So UEFA has a rule that you can't spend more money than you make as a club. And a lot of these owners own other businesses, and they use that money for the soccer club. Manchester City, their owner Sheikh Mansour, I think he owns a lot of other stuff in oil. He owns a lot of stuff in Saudi Arabia, so he uses a lot of that money to help fund Manchester City. And apparently, there's stuff about the money laundering and all that.
Wow, just like the Arizona Coyotes. They're
Yeah.
a big money laundering scheme for the NHL.
Andrew, I'm so sorry. I don't want to bring down the axe on you.
Oh
Oh my goodness.
man!
I'm so sorry. This is the wrong stream to talk
Ah!
about Man City. I'm sorry, Andrew.
I remember when Balotelli was on Man City a number of years ago. That was a fun time. That guy was interesting.
Yeah, he was.
I remember he got in trouble because I think on Twitter, like he posted a picture like with a gun. Like he posted a picture of a gun, and everyone like got like was like, "Whoa! Like what the hell is this guy doing?" Right? I think he got in some trouble for it. I don't
Yeah.
exactly remember, but
Michelle Turner to be the guy selling cartoons he got tax free in Kanawaki.
where is Kanawaki? I've never heard of that place. I feel so like ignorant right now.
I mean, Michelle Turner selling cartoons would be like I'm
Oh,
trying to imagine Michelle Turner as a cartoon character of all things.
I just can't imagine. Like if Michel Therrien wasn't like in hockey or a coach, I could definitely see him being like a construction guy. He just like smokes like cigarettes like all the time, and just is like he swears like a truck driver. Like dude would definitely be a trades guy if he wasn't like coaching hockey or whatever.
He definitely would.
1,000%. Oh man, he's got the personality for it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking tradespeople because trades are great. It's just like I just could see him just being a trades guy. I don't know, just the way he just smokes a lot of darts, and a lot of the trades guys I know are cigarette smokers. So that
Oh.
whole mess in Man City is like if Juventus, Glasgow Rangers, and Barcelona own. Wasn't like Barcelona in like some serious like financial issues recently? Like
They still are.
they still are, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
like
what's
they're like
happened with Barcelona pretty much is for the past, I think more than the past decade, they've been spending stupid amounts of money on players. Like they spent, I think 180 like for Phil Coutinho, then they spent like another 180 on Antoine Griezmann. Still have not fully paid that off. And long story short, they sold both those players back to different, like Griezmann back to Atletico Madrid for 20 million, and they sold Phil Coutinho to Aston Villa for 20 million.
so they
Like
basically just made no money on that.
made no money, and eventually once the pandemic hit, since the way they were spending, the best way it was described by a financial advisor was they were spending with the fans, safety net of the fans coming to the games and providing revenue, buying jerseys and selling tickets. And then once
Uh-huh.
the pandemic happened and all the fans were not allowed to come to games, like that safety net just disappeared, and they just like were in debt for so much money. And they're also trying to force their players into taking pay cuts. Like Gerard Piqué was pretty much playing for free, like his past few seasons in Barcelona,
Wow.
pretty much for free. And then Busquets, I'm pretty sure took a pay cut, and a lot of the other guys. And then they have a really good player named Frankie De Jong, who's a pretty young player from the Netherlands,
Yep.
and they tried to sell him to make back some money, but he didn't want to take a pay cut, and he wanted to stay in Barcelona because there was a clause that he had a lot of say in what happens.
Oh man,
And Barcelona was trying to make his life hell pretty much.
that's messed up.
It is, yeah.
Wow, what a disaster. That is a disaster. You want to talk about like how the Vegas Gold Knights are a disaster? That's bad.
And they're booing, and the fans were booing players for not taking pay cuts who just started out their careers. Like it's ridiculous. Like players, like they're trying to make a living too. You shouldn't be booing them for not taking pay cuts.
For especially if you're just starting out, right? You gotta try to make as much as you can, right? And then eventually, if you hit a certain status where you're making a lot of money from the team and you got sponsorships, stuff like that, yeah, then you could probably afford to take a pay cut. But like everyone's got to eat, man, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
Kenawaki's a native reserve outside of Montreal.
Okay, that's cool. Though. Thank you, Andrew. It's fact checking us. That's awesome.
Yeah. Montreal and UFC, their revenues are not that great. That's the key.
Yeah, that's a shame.
But the funniest thing with Barcelona is not only the way they spent this year. So they did spend a lot this year because their goal to get back to a stable financial place was to make the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And they got knocked out, which was pretty funny in the group stage. And they got knocked out of the Europa League against Manchester United.
Oh my god, what a mess, man! Barcelona's a mess. Honestly, though, when I was in high school, everybody was a Barcelona fan. So you know what? Everyone that was like the bandwagon team like 10 years ago. Honestly, I don't feel
I
bad.
mean, I don't
They
feel
had their
bad for
day.
Madrid fans if anything bad happens. At least at least at my time at school, everyone would say they were a Madrid fan. They couldn't
Yeah.
even name 10 players.
Oh, dude, yeah, same here. Like, I remember seeing like people in like the cafeteria wearing like Barcelona jackets, and I'm like, oh, aside from Messi, you probably don't know any of the other players. Like, let's be real now.
And they say, "Yeah, I know this guy, and this guy played in like the 70s or 80s, or
Yeah,
this
it's
guy like used to play for them."
2012, 2013 at the time. That's a long time ago from the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go back, switch gears a little here, but we got one more thing maybe before we close it out. This is some big news coming out of Nashville. Lots of big news though, but apparently Dave Poyle is set to retire, or I guess step down in June, and Barry Trotz is going to take over for him. That's huge, 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 huge. What do you think of that, David?
I found that pretty interesting. Like, it's surprising, but it's not really surprising at the same time. Because Barry tried so many teams in the NHL gave him an offer to become their head coach, but he declined all of it. And even restaurants in Winnipeg said they'd give him free wings if he became their head coach. Free
That's
year of
amazing.
honey garlic wings. Let's just say I would have taken that, but I guess he's pretty much completed everything he can as a coach for the most part. So I guess he just wants a new adventure, and I think it makes sense because I think he did coach Nashville before. I think I'm like 95% sure he did.
Yeah, he
Like that,
did.
he's probably when I was younger, he did. So
Hmm.
sort of a new adventure for him, and I think he'd thrive there because he's one of the best hockey minds out there. And also learning from David Poyle and just immediately taking over after he retires, he's going to be very familiar with that situation they have out there. And he's going to have a good base out there in Nashville, in my opinion.
I agree with you, Damon. I think he's going to do a great job. Like you said, a great hockey mind and very well respected around the hockey world as he is. And I think he's going to do great things. I think talent evaluation. I think he's pretty good. I think he'll do well at that personally. Um, with Nashville had some pretty good teams under him for years. There were sometimes he was in tough spots where they didn't really have much. Like he didn't really have much to work with per se. But he had some good years in Nashville as a head coach. Um, Him and Dave Poyle were like there together for so long, right? So it's yeah, man. I was happy to see that. I've always liked Barry Trotz. Again, and that was like you said too. I was very surprised that he rejected a lot of head coaching jobs. I think Winnipeg was hired, rumored for him in the summer. There was a bunch of teams that were like interested in him, and like you said, he's done everything he probably has wanted to do as a coach, and maybe just wants a new adventure or like a new challenge, right? Like being a GM, like the next step up is, that's a big challenge, right? And obviously, it's good for him to go back to a um, organization that he's familiar with too, right? So that's always good to start a new position like that in a familiar organization.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on some comments here just before we
Uh,
start logging off. Since you're talking soccer, what do you think if Bedard was to go full soccer player on the NHL teams he doesn't want to go to? Meaning, tell them not to even interview him because he won't sign. He's pulling off an Eric
oh,
Lindros at that point.
now see the differences between soccer and hockey is soccer that's not as frowned upon, but in the hockey world, you start doing shit like that, you're gonna have a tough career because a lot of teams are gonna they use the term blacklist, right?
I think blackball or
yeah,
blacklist.
yeah, that's right. That's gonna happen too. Like, hey, like you said, David, Eric Lindros, man, he had a tough time with that for years. People still don't let it go with that whole situation, right? I mean, I know for football, Eli Manning, he when he was drafted the one year, I think he got drafted by the San Diego Chargers, and his parents got involved and said, "We don't want him playing for the Chargers," so he got traded to the Giants instead. So a lot happens a lot,
Mhm.
but um, I think in the hockey world, it's a little bit more. I'm gonna say old school like that because in other sports they seem to let that slide a lot. Hockey, I remember Kyle Turris too. Like he didn't want to play for the Coyotes back then, and he took a lot of heat for that. right? And there's other guys that have not wanted to play for certain franchises and signed elsewhere, and they've gotten heat for that. So I think again, he's going to be he's a generational talent, but I think the old school side of hockey will have a pretty louder voice if you were to do something like that.
Oh yeah, Kyle Turris. Now that's an interesting name that you mentioned because I actually got to meet him one time at my work when I worked in the summer of
Oh,
2019.
no way.
I worked at a summer camp at Dovercourt Recreation Center,
Uh huh.
and Kyle Turris' son went to the camp, and I saw him like pretty much every day dropping his son off,
Oh, that's pretty cool. Was
and
he
he
a
held
nice
the door
guy?
for me one time, which was pretty cool.
Oh wow, that's really nice. Was he like a nice guy
He was a
though?
very
Or
nice guy, Kyle
yeah?
Turris.
Oh, that's nice, man. Good to hear. Wasn't there someone that you said you met? Oh,
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, this
NFL who you met the
Friday.
other day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I got to meet.
yeah.
I was doing a 67s game. They were playing the Windsor Spitfires as a camera operator, and out of the blue, Mark Savard came up to me and said hi, which was really cool. Because where I was is I was right in between both dressing rooms operating the camera, where a lot of players would go for in-game or post-game interviews and pre-game interviews. And it was just Mark Savard and I, and he said hi to me. I thought, oh my god, Mark Savard just said hi to me. Like that was really cool.
Yeah, man.
Like
He's
I
he's a
was like
nice guy.
shocked.
He
And I
seems
saw
like a
Shane Wright as well, but no words were said. He
How
didn't
close
play
were
that
you?
night. He injured his ankle
Oh
before the
shit, I hope he's
game.
okay. Was
Yeah.
it it was before the game, like in
It
the
was just
warm up?
before the game. He apparently injured his ankle, so he never
Oh, no
played.
way. Damn, I hope he's all right though. All jokes aside, like I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
Um I was gonna tell well, I think I told you the other day, but I'm going to the Steelheads game on Friday. So that'll be fun. Pretty stoked for that. I haven't been to an OHL game in quite a while, so it'll be fun.
Yeah. I just want to actually touch on something here that Montreal UFC brings up. Adam Fox told Calgary eat the pie though.
Ah, that's
What's your opinion on this stuff with
true.
NCAA prospects pretty much choosing where they play?
I don't know, man. Like he was like he was property of the Calgary Flames, if I'm correct, right? He was
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like you haven't played a game in the league yet. I know Justin Schultz did that with Anaheim years ago. I remember he didn't want to play for them, and like he basically like was like making a big deal out of like the sweepstakes for him. But personally, for me, it's like you look great in college. Don't get me wrong, the NCAA has really grown over the years, and it's really good hockey. Like I watch a lot of highlights of it, but you haven't played a game in the league yet. I'm sorry, you shouldn't be like having that kind of attitude. Like, oh, I don't want to play here, I don't want to play there. Like, you just got to play where you're property of, and that's it. Like, don't. Why would you sign an entry level deal with a team if you don't want to be there? That's another thing too, right? Because I'm pretty sure you have to be signed to an entry level deal, right, or something like that, or I don't know, man. I just personally just think like you're just trying to make your mark in the league, like play wherever you're at. Then eventually, you want to go somewhere else when you hit the time of free agency and all that. Go ahead and do it, but yeah,
Yeah, like I have like a lot of opinions on this whole situation because I understand players want to stay in where they go, but I think it sort of reinforces the point why I find CHLers like in past years have been drafted more than NCAA because I
Mhm.
find like the CHL there's you have sort of the it's security of that they're going to be a part of your team for the future. But for the NCAA, they can choose whether they sign through they don't, but for the CHL, they pretty much are. I don't want to say they're forced to sign, but you pretty much have an easier chance of signing them than you do with the NCAA. So I'm wondering if the NHL might work on some sort of way to make it so that NCAA and CHL have the same amount of security around them and then they could be signed by the team without the player having as much say as
yeah,
yeah in like that situation.
yeah. Like it's like a weird one though, because like the NCAA produces a lot of good players. I'd say the last 10 years or so, they've really started to like make a lot of good players. So yeah, man. I just think if you're just trying to start out in the league, you just got to play where you're property of, and then after that, when you're a free agent, hey, then by all means, go play with the team you want.
Yeah, I just want to touch on Andrew's comment. Like, I know there's two different leagues, but I would like what the point I was trying to get across was essentially is, I know they're two different leagues, but they're both feeder leagues for the NHL prospects.
Yeah.
They get drafted, but the CHLers are typically, I find, get drafted more because the NHL teams know like we have more control over where these guys play than the NCAA.
Yeah, sometimes the NCAA players don't leave like college until they're like 23 or 24 years old sometimes, right? Depending on like the situation, right? So that's probably I do agree. That's probably why you don't see as many like NCAA players drafted because of that situation. But it'd be interesting to see like if the league makes a change to that. But it's also because like like they go to school, right? So they're in probably like a 3-4 year program, and they gotta complete the schooling before they get drafted, like before they can play. There's probably a lot of like politics that I personally don't know about, but I'm just going with my assumption on that.
Oh yeah, you remember Jimmy Vesey's situation? I don't know if you remember that in 2016.
I briefly remember. Yeah, I know he was. I think it was.
He was
I
a
know he's got.
Nashville draft pick,
Yes,
and he
and then he
refused
didn't
to
want
play
to
for
go there.
them.
Like I don't agree with that. It's just you play wherever you're signed. Like why not? Like Nashville made the finals that year.
Yeah,
Like
there were
why
so many
wouldn't you want to
memes
play
of
for
him
them?
that year. Like there was memes of him looking really depressed, and it's like Jimmy Vesey when he realized he could have been a member of the Predators.
Yeah, like legit. Like the Preds were in the finals that year. Why that definitely blew up in his face. And then that summer, like they got PK Subban, and they had a good group of players. I would be like, yeah, that'd be a destination for me, right? Like, why not?
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, is there anything else you want to touch on before we start logging off here?
Oh no, I think I'm good. I just want to say thank you everybody for joining us tonight. It was a very good stream. A lot of fan interaction, which I love seeing from you guys too. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel here. And yeah, thank you so much. Damon, do you want to add anything?
You just said it perfectly, Adrian. I don't want to ruin a good exit to our show.
Oh, no worries, man. No worries. But again, guys, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.